Have you ever started learning English with big hopes, but then gave up because you felt slow, confused, or afraid of making mistakes? You tried for a few days, maybe even weeks, watching videos and repeating words, but it felt like nothing really changed, and you stopped. You told yourself, maybe English is not for me, or I'm too old now, and you closed your notebook thinking it was over. But somewhere deep inside, a little voice still whispered, I want to speak. I want to try again. I want to understand and be understood. You see other people speaking English, smiling, making friends, getting new jobs, and something inside you says, that could be me too. You remember the feeling when you first said, hello, and someone understood you. It was small, but it made your heart feel proud and alive. This is not a story of someone perfect, rich, or young. It's a story of someone simple, someone like you, who started again, a person who failed, gave up, felt embarrassed, but found a reason to try again, not for anyone else, but for their own freedom. Because learning English is not only about grammar or exams, it's about expressing your dreams, your pain, your love, and your voice. And maybe, after hearing this story, you'll remember one thing. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. One evening, Mira stood in front of her mirror and said, today was long, but I showed up. I'm still learning. I'm still here. She looked into her own eyes and repeated the sentence. It felt strange, but something inside her felt stronger than before. From that day, she started a new habit. 5 minutes every evening, standing in front of the mirror, speaking slowly to herself. She began with simple sentences. I am tired today. The bakery was busy. I made good coffee. Each one came from real life. She didn't try to sound perfect. She just wanted to speak clearly and honestly and listen to how the words came from her mouth. At first, her voice was soft and shaky, but each night it grew a little louder, a little clearer, a little more sure. Sometimes she smiled while speaking. Sometimes she looked serious. Sometimes she laughed at her own face and silly pronunciation, but she always spoke, always showed up, even when tired, even when sad, even when she wanted to skip and forget. She called this mirror time her safe space, a place to practice English without fear, a place to hear her voice, believe in it. One night, she asked herself, how are you today? Mira. Then answered, I'm okay, a little tired, but I did not give up. It became a short conversation, question and answer. No rules, just kindness, just presence, just her voice, and the mirror. She added this to her notebook. Mirror talk, my daily promise to show up, to speak, and to believe in progress, not perfection. Some nights, she forgot a word. She paused, smiled, and tried another way. I feel calm. My body is slow. My heart is still strong. She wasn't afraid of mistakes anymore. She saw them like little stones on the road, not walls. She stepped over them with grace. Each day, she watched one English video, then stood in the mirror and repeated just one sentence, slowly, with meaning. She called it shadow mirror. First shadowing from the video, then speaking in the mirror, like it was her own sentence now. Her face looked different now, not because of makeup or style, but because of something new confidence. Quiet but real. At work, she whispered little sentences while cleaning. The coffee is ready. I feel good today. Thank you for coming. Nobody heard her, but that didn't matter. She wasn't speaking to impress anyone. She was speaking to grow roots inside herself. One morning, she stood in front of the mirror and said, I believe in you. She paused, then said it again. I believe in you, Mira. And that day, she smiled more, not because everything was perfect, but because she felt connected to her voice for the first time. She wrote in her notebook, "My English is not strong yet, but my voice is brave. My practice is honest. That is my true progress." She didn't count how many words she knew. She counted how many days she showed up. She counted how many fears she gently faced. And in her mirror, she saw not just a woman speaking English, but a woman changing slowly, with care, with effort, with hope. One rainy morning, Mira walked into the bakery and saw a big sign English-speaking staff needed. Please tell the manager if interested. Her heart beat faster. For a moment, she thought, maybe I can do it. But then fear came quickly and pushed that thought away. She looked at the sign again. Her hands shook. She whispered, I'm not ready. My English is too slow. I'll just embarrass myself. All day, her thoughts felt heavy. She made coffee, cleaned tables, but inside she kept hearing, you're not good enough to speak English. That night, she didn't practice in front of the mirror. She sat on her bed, holding her notebook, but her hands couldn't open it. She looked at her reflection and whispered, what's the point? She felt tired, not from work, but from carrying so much doubt. The next day, her manager asked, do you want to try the English position? Mira smiled nervously and said, I don't know, he said. No pressure. You're doing great already. Just tell me if you want to try. Then he walked away and left her thinking. Mira went home and cried. She cried not because of fear, but because part of her wanted to try, and another part felt too small. She opened her notebook and saw the old sentence, I am not perfect, but I am present. She touched the page gently and breathed in. The next few days, Mira didn't practice much. She wrote nothing. She didn't talk to herself in the mirror. She just felt quiet inside. One night, her niece visited again. She saw Mira sitting silently and said, Auntie, did you stop your English? Mira didn't answer. The little girl smiled and said, I remember your sentence. You said, I will try again. I liked that. Then she hugged Mira softly. After her niece left, Mira sat alone. Then she whispered, I said that. I really said that. Maybe I should listen to my own words. She walked to the mirror, slowly, like carrying something fragile. She looked at herself and said, You are afraid, but you are still here. Then she opened her notebook and wrote, I feel weak, but I remember why I started. I want to speak, not perfectly, just truly. The next day, she watched a video called Simple English for Cafes. She listened 3 times, then practiced one sentence in the mirror. She said, Would you like sugar with that? She said it slowly, then again, with a smile. She laughed. It felt small, but it was progress. Later that week, the manager asked again. Mira took a breath and said, Can I try once? Just one day? He smiled and nodded gently. That night, she didn't sleep well. Her mind was full of worry. But deep inside, a small voice whispered, Just one step. You're ready. She wrote in her notebook, I don't know if I can do it well, but I will not hide. I will give my voice a chance. On Monday morning, Mira wore her cleanest apron and stood near the counter, hands shaking but eyes focused. It was her trial day. The bakery felt the same, but inside, everything was different. She kept repeating one sentence in her mind. Can do this. Mira, a man walked in and said, Hi, do you have almond milk? Mira's heart jumped, but her lips moved and said, Yes, we have almond milk. The man smiled and said, "Great." That was it. A short moment. But to Mira, it felt like climbing a mountain and touching the sky. She walked to the back kitchen, closed her eyes, and smiled. She whispered, "I said it. I really said it." And he understood me. All day, she served customers using short English sentences. Sometimes she forgot words, but she smiled and kept going without panic. She said, "Please wait one moment, and your coffee is ready each time." Her voice grew a little more sure and a little more free. After work, she wrote in her notebook, "Today, I used English, not perfectly, not fast, but truly, my voice met the world today." Her manager came to her and said, "You did great. Would you like to do it again tomorrow?" Mira nodded, eyes bright with quiet joy. That night, Mira stood in front of the mirror and said, "You didn't give up. You didn't hide. You stepped forward. And that is enough." A week later, her younger coworker, Lien, asked softly, "How did you do it?" Mira, "I want to speak English, but I'm too scared." Mira smiled gently and said, "I talk to myself every day, in the mirror, in the kitchen, in the notebook, just one sentence at a time." She opened her bag and showed Lian the old notebook. Inside were simple sentences, tiny victories, and soft promises written in her voice. Lian said, "I thought I was the only one scared." Mira looked at her and said, "We're all scared, but we can try anyway." That night, Mira wrote, "I spoke English. I helped someone feel less alone. This journey is not only mine, it's something I can share." Now, when she spoke in the mirror, she added new sentences. "I help others. My voice has value. My story matters." Every morning, she gave herself 1 minute to breathe, speak, and believe. She no longer waited for confidence. She built it, gently. Sometimes, customers asked hard questions. She didn't always understand. But now, she calmly said, "Hari, can you say that slower?" And that was okay. She learned that asking was brave too. Learning didn't mean knowing everything. It meant staying open and willing. She no longer counted grammar points or memorized long lists. She counted moments of courage. One sentence, one voice, one human connection. Mira started to write short notes in English and left them in her coworkers' lockers. "You're doing great. Keep speaking. It's okay to be slow." Her world grew, not because her English was perfect, but because her heart kept opening and her voice kept rising one small step each day. One evening, Mira stood outside the bakery after work, looking at the sky. The sun was soft, and the world felt quiet and kind. She whispered, "I did it," not loudly, not proudly, but softly, like a secret between her and the sky, a secret made of effort. She thought about the first day she said, "Hello," the notebook, the mirror, the tears, the fear, the tiny steps no one ever saw. Now, she still made mistakes. She still forgot words. But she no longer hid. She no longer believed the lie that she was not enough. Every sentence she spoke now carried something deeper. Not just language, but her story, her courage, her slow and faithful fight to speak. One night, she wrote her final sentence on the last page of the notebook. "I am not perfect, but I speak. That is more than enough." She closed the notebook, kissed the cover gently, and smiled. Then she opened a new one and wrote on the first page. Day one, again, because beginnings are not only for the first time, sometimes they are for every time we rise again after falling. Even a little. She started leaving notes for herself: show up, speak small, try again. Her wall became a garden of tiny reminders and hopes. She helped Leon start mirror practice. She told her, "Your voice is not too quiet. It's just waiting for you to believe in it." Mira no longer waited to feel ready. She acted anyway. She spoke anyway. She tried anyway. And that's when change truly happened. She didn't chase fluency anymore. She chased freedom. The freedom to speak slowly, to pause, to smile, to say, "I don't know yet." Now, when she made mistakes, she laughed kindly because mistakes no longer meant failure. They meant growth. They meant progress. She told herself every day, "You're not here to impress. You're here to express." That simple truth became her new way of learning. One morning, she said to her reflection, "Thank you for staying." It was the most honest thing she had ever told herself in English. She still practiced daily, still whispered on the bus, still watched short videos, still wrote one sentence a day, still believed. And one day, a young woman in the bakery asked, "How did you learn to speak like that?" Mira smiled and said, "I never stopped." She touched her heart and said, "You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay. Stay with your voice. Stay with your story." Her voice was not fluent, but it was full of patience, full of memory, full of a woman who never gave up on herself. And now, if you ask her, "Why can you speak English now?" she will answer with a quiet smile, "Because I didn't leave. I stayed."